What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin. And Glenn, we're getting to these guys a little late this evening, but you know what? Better late than never, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to the Ravens. Day one is in the books, Glenn.
Yes, finally. It's in the books, and quite a lot of news coming out of day one camp. And not all the news we were hoping for, that's for sure. So I guess we'll start with the big news of the day, the disappointing news of the day. So not only is running back Gus Edwards placed on the COVID-19 list, but the leader, our guy, Lamar Jackson, tested positive for COVID for the second time. As everyone remembers, he tested positive last year, forcing him out of action. And man, he tested positive again and is now going to be forced to miss the first 10 games or 10 days, I should say, of practice. What were your initial thoughts when you heard the news, Jimbo?
Yeah, so I immediately went to how will this affect the Ravens? Well, let me say this. First of all, I want Lamar to get better. I think last time he said that he was relatively, the side effects were mild. I think at one point he said he's pretty much asymptomatic, and we'll hope that it's the same. But acting under that assumption, I immediately went to, I think momentum is important, and that's kind of where my brain went. I feel like we had good momentum, and things were looking good. Lamar came into mini camp, and the teams were the players were driving and things like that, and really working together. And then this just puts a damper on it immediately, right? There's nothing harder than getting out of the gate slow and having to dig yourself out of a hole. Mm-hmm. So not that this is going to be game changing or detrimental. I also don't want to oversell this and and say that it's the sky is falling. It's just not ideal. There's really no way around it, and it's just a really unfortunate situation for Lamar, who's kind of in a contract year. The Ravens, who this is all chips on the table type year, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And so immediately I went to how it's going to affect the Ravens' morale, and then how it's going to affect their development as a team. Certainly without Lamar out there. But before I get your thoughts on it, one thing that I did like that John said is he said, look, I look at it as I almost welcome it at this point in the year, because it's an opportunity for us to retool and get better in other places that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to get better in if everything was normal. So it's kind of nice to be able to prepare. First of all, think about the reps that Tyler and Trace are getting. Mm-hmm. That they wouldn't have gotten if Lamar was here. Think about the pressure the other players have on them to perform without Lamar Jackson there. So I like that mindset. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that long term guys get better because of it, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why Coach would try and spin it that way. I'm not so sure I really buy into it, and the reason is that you need your leader out there to really to get better as a group, because as soon as he's back, any chemistry that was built between Trace and the other members of the offense will quickly get tossed to the side because Lamar Jackson's taking over. So I appreciate Coach trying to put a positive spin on it. And it's not like it's the end of the world. I mean, he's going to miss the first 10 practices, and that's not good. But this is a guy who's been in this system and knows it well, and I think we'll be fine. But I'm disappointed, Jimbo, and the reason I'm disappointed is because when we last spoke, you asked me what I was most excited about heading into this training camp,
right?
And I answered that with to see the development of the passing game and what that evolution looks like with the new wrinkles being brought in by the new coaches on the staff, and the fact that Greg Roman has to realize at this point, I'm sure they made it clear to him, and he's no dummy. I'm sure he realizes that he has to evolve that passing game, and it has to play a little catch up and get up to that running game, and at least get, in an efficiency standpoint, get somewhat up there to where the run game is. And it's hard to start that process without Lamar Jackson. I mean, I couldn't imagine. That's the one position where you wouldn't want to see a guy get taken out of practice. I mean, any other position you'd like to see it rather than Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's just, so from that standpoint, I'm disappointed. Yeah, I mean, it's just tough to see. But first and foremost, we hope that Lamar Jackson recovers. There's no long-standing effects, and that he bounces back similarly like he did last year. Went on a tear when he came back. Maybe
the whole season will be a tear.
Maybe that's
and he did have some videos coming out just looking like he was in good health.
Mm-hmm.
He had some videos on Snapchat that ended up on Twitter that it's just him driving, singing in his car or whatever, but that's a good sign, right? I mean, he's not on a respirator or anything like that, right? So he seems to be doing well. So that, like you said, that's goal number one, but yeah, it's like we had, wind behind our sails, and then somebody started cutting into the sails, and now the wind's just kind of flying through them and not having the same effect.
You can patch up those sails, but it's going to take 10 days. It's going to take 10 days to patch up them sails. And I mean, you're right. It's a big year for both Trace McSorley and Tyler Huntley. So, from that standpoint, I think that they're probably, secretly not too upset with this situation to be able to show themselves off a little bit to the new coaches and let people know, what they're all about and get some reps with the first team. So I think they're probably secretly a little bit happy.
Mm-hmm.
But this is certainly a setback for the offense. However minor you want to, state it, it's a setback nonetheless when your leader is off the field for the first 10 practice. No way around it, especially when you add to the fact that Gus Edwards is also on the same COVID list and will miss the same amount of practices. So boom, there goes, 2/3 of your main backfield. JK is the only one left. So yeah, that's a little bit bothersome. Not a game change, not something that I think is going to cause losses in the loss column, but could be a sign now that we've seen he's tested positive now twice, once last Thanksgiving and now again. There's no indication that it couldn't happen a third time. So that's what I was worried about when I saw Gus. Is this the first of many of these to come? And when I looked at the list put it out, I think Schefter put out a list of all the members that are now on the COVID list across the league. This isn't just a Ravens problem.
Right.
This is a problem across the league, and unfortunately looks like something we're going to have to deal with once again this year.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the Ravens are at 90% vaccination as far as the team goes. The Cowboys are below 50%. I think the Washington Redskins are also below 50%.
You mean the Washington football team?
Oh, excuse me. Jeez whiz. The Washington football team, yes, also below 50% if I'm not mistaken. But I know for a fact that the Cowboys are. But the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't want to go too far from the conversation because you talked about Tyler Huntley and Trace McSorley. So that's kind of how I want to transition.
Mm-hmm.
I just was scrolling through Twitter today and I saw some folks there at camp, and somebody made a very definitive statement, which I'm not surprised by, but some other people might be. And I was encouraged by it, not surprised by it. Said that Tyler Huntley far and away has the best deep ball on the Baltimore Ravens, even with Lamar Jackson healthy. Throws the best deep ball. His apparently looked really good today. He was humming. And so that's encouraging because that's the guy that, we think will ultimately be the second most important position on the team, as the backup quarterback. So that's encouraging for me. I was really happy. Like I said, not surprised by it because I know Tyler, but encouraged that it looks like he's taken step forwards as a pro quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. We're high on him. We loved his poise that he showed coming into the Buffalo game and, showing that moment wasn't too big for him. So, yeah, I mean, that's encouraging to hear. I think that ultimately it'll come down to the decision-making between these two guys because I also saw Jamison Hensley tweeted out today that McSorley had one of his best practices as a Raven today, filling in for Lamar. So both guys, at least from the reports we're getting from the local media, looking good in practice. From an arm standpoint, could come down to whoever makes the best decisions on the fly in those big moments in the preseason, albeit, but big moments for these guys. And that could ultimately determine who's the backup and who they're going to try and squeeze through the practice squad. Because I don't think they want either one of those guys, leaving the team. I think they just only have room for one on the roster. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Hey, they got 10 days now to show with the first team. I'm sure they're going to be alternating snaps with the first team. And they got a golden opportunity here that they certainly would not have had Lamar Jackson been healthy and on the field. So, yeah, let's see what happens. But I wanted to get your take on another bit of news coming out of camp that's got me a little nervous. I mean, we were loving the fact that they finally decided to let Bradley Bozeman return to the center position that he flourished at back at Alabama since he's been a left guard, since he's been in Baltimore, and they did that. But apparently he had 2 bad snaps and took off his gloves and threw them in frustration after those 2 poor snaps. And they even asked Coach about it afterwards. And he said, look, the snap is obviously of the utmost importance. The timing of it has to be there when it's expected. And if it's delayed or if it's a poor snap, it sets off a chain reaction and affects the play, overall. So are you starting to get a little nervous about Bradley, or is this just him filling out the bumps and this is why we have training camp?
I'm going with the latter.
Okay.
I'm going with the latter. This is why and he kind of demonstrated that in his frustration to get it right, in the fact that he wasn't getting it right, throwing the gloves off, just saying, screw the gloves. Let's get out there and play. I think that John said this, and I think Bradley Bozeman is on the same page. They are chasing perfection when it comes to these snaps. Like, these are of the utmost importance. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, with the timing and the placement in our offense, it's everything. With how much the ball gets moved around in the backfield and how timing, plays a role in that with the RPOs and stuff like that. And then obviously being in the pistol, being under center, being in the shotgun, the variety of situations he's going to be in is vast. And so I think that Bradley Bozeman has a commitment to get it done. So I'm not concerned about it because I think the ability is within him to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think he will do it. I have confidence in him as a player, like his mental fortitude and his makeup as a person. And so I'll put my faith in that. So I think he'll get it done. I was nervous to see the report as well. I agree with you 100%. I was, not feeling too good about it, but I think he gets it done.
Okay.
So I'm not wavering yet.
I hope you're right. I mean, it's not what you want to hear, but we have to remember it's day 1 of training camp. So this is why they're out there. They're out there because they need to work on some things. And there's no doubt Bradley certainly is one of those guys when you consider the fact that he hasn't snapped a ball in live action since 2017. I mean, when was he last at Alabama? It's been quite some time. So, and
then think about the heat today and the humidity. When you got that humid and your gloves are always wet, trying to grasp that. I think that's why he really, other than the frustration, I think that's why he took the gloves off, because he wanted to get more sensation, on the ball and not worry about it slipping. Because when it, with the glove on, it starts slipping. It's a problem. Not that I'm a center or anything like that, but you know how it goes with the gloves and the moisture, and it can be an issue, certainly. So might as well just feel that leather, right? It's so hot out, it probably gets sticky anyway.
No doubt. I mean, when you just to have that contact with your hand actually on the ball gives you such a better feel for what you're doing. So hopefully, maybe this is just a learning lesson. Maybe we might never see him in another glove from here on out. So
certainly not in these conditions.
No, not in the hot and sweaty. Maybe when it gets a little chillier out there in late, in December or something like that, maybe we will, but hopefully not until that point. All right. So then I have another question for you, Jimbo.
Better be a good one, because I got one that's going to floor you, Glenn.
Okay. Well, there's also reports coming out that Hollywood Brown has looked good in practice, made a couple of really impressive catches down the field specifically. Is this getting you more? I mean, we're not down on him. There's no point. Right. Well, I wouldn't consider you down on him at any point. But does this get you more excited about the possibility of what he could bring to the team this year?
It does. I'm kind of in a wait and see, situation with Hollywood. It does. It gets me excited about it. But I've never been nervous about that part of his game. I think he'll always be able to take the top off of defense. I mean, he'll always be comparable to a Deshaun Jackson I talked about the other day, where once again, you have a Deshaun Jackson type career, one heck of a career, right? No doubt. But we want him to round his game out and be more than that. So I'm encouraged by those reports, because I think the biggest issue last year just seemed to be the timing. Don't you think? Like between him and Lamar, it just seemed a little off, seemed a little forced. But I think Hollywood will always be able to blaze past defenses and take the top off until, he loses those wheels. But I want to see what he can do in the intermediate and the short stuff, get the ball in his hands quick and make a play. So I'm encouraged by it, but I also expect it. I mean, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's well said. I think a report of hearing him run past some DBs and catch a deep ball.
It's another day in the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Now, if we see him in the preseason catch a 5-yard hitch, make the corner miss, make the safety miss, and turn it upfield, and then turn that into a big
break
play,
through an arm tackle or something like that.
That's going to get me excited. Absolutely, catch a ball in traffic, under some serious duress. That would get me excited. But you're right. I mean, now, I guess I would be more encouraged if Lamar was in there connecting on those deep balls, because you're right. They just seemed a little bit of a step off last year as far as getting that deep ball.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, because I think they were probably trying to put an emphasis on backing the defense up and hitting some of those, just couldn't get it done. It seemed like countless times they were just an arm's length away from getting a big play down the field. It could have totally opened up the defense, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come. But I know, one of our biggest supporters has a take on another receiver. So Jimbo, what's going on there?
Yeah, and I want to say this really quickly. There's a few of you guys, and we appreciate it, that have reached out to us and added us on Twitter and DM'd us on Twitter, because you're out there at camp and making observations. And one of those is Nana Rave. She's always in our comments, and one of our patrons and one of our most faithful followers. So we appreciate it, Nana Rave. But she just she DM'd us an image of Tylenol Wallace he looks like he's 4 feet off the ground, stretching out, making a catch. And she basically said, why didn't the Ravens send this picture out, on the Ravens website, on the app and things like that, about our hidden gem, Tylen Wallace? Could it be she says, could it be to try and keep Soldier Brown, Hollywood Brown, of course, out there as a front runner at wide receiver, when at best he's a number 3 or number 4 compared to a true number 1?
Not the biggest Hollywood fan. That's been made clear.
Fire, Nana Rave. I tell you what, man. But one thing I can agree on, the picture looks great. I mean, this is an awesome picture, and I think that Tylen Wallace has an opportunity to be the dark horse surprise coming out of this wide receiver room, as deep as it is. I think this kid can make hay, in that I think he's a technician. I think that's what he's relied on for a long time, and I think he'll continue to do so in the NFL. And we have the right coaches for it, right? I mean, I think we have the right guys for it. And man, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And Nana Rave, I tell you what, if you're right about this guy, props to you, because people have been high on him, but you've been beating the Tylen Wallace drum since day one. So. What's your take on that, Glenn?
Well, I thought she's a little harsh on Hollywood. Just to be honest, I think that to say he's a 4 is a little bit harsh. Now I agree.
Now, if he played for the Buccaneers,
well, I mean, yeah, of course, if he's playing for them, who have like 3 number 1s, but yeah, I think he's still got some room to prove he can be a true number 1. There's no doubt there. I think 4. I think he's done enough to show he's a little more than a 4, but. As far as Tylen goes, I mean, look, this could be very well a scenario where they're trying to keep him a little bit secret. Now, this isn't a guy that they're going to, decide to cut and try and get through the practice squad, so they got to hide him in that sense. He's making the team, no doubt about it. So I'm not really sure what the hiding would be for. I'm trying to think of what would benefit them, but
just don't let the D coordinators have them overlook him all, the week prior, right? They prep for Hollywood, they prep for Sammy, they prep for Rashad, and then they're like, oh crap, this guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because then there could be a scenario in which they line him up outside and the DCs just leave him on an island with a corner, and then they say, all right, hey, go get it. And I'm excited because he's such a 50-50 ball winner. I mean, this is a guy who led the nation in drop percentage. I mean, this guy just doesn't drop the ball. He's a jump ball machine, despite the fact that he doesn't have the, well over 6 foot frame that you'd expect.
Great timing, right?
Great timing and want to. I mean, just competitiveness when the ball's in the air. I'm going to get it. It's my ball. So I'm super pumped about him. I think that he probably is a year out from really flourishing it from a production standpoint. I think he could be the next Devin Duvernay. I think I mentioned last time when we talked about him.
In this coming year, like typical production.
Yeah, like match the production we saw from Duvernay in his rookie year, minus the return yards, because I think Duvernay's now locked up the return job. But we could certainly see him sprinkled in the offense and hopefully takes advantage of the targets he does get, just like Duvernay did, because I think he did is about as good as you could have possibly done with his opportunities. And I'd expect the same with Tylen. But look, all he has to do is go out there and go snatch a ball away from a corner, and he gets himself some more time, gets himself more snaps and more targets. So, yeah, look out for Tylen Wallace, who could certainly shock some people. And really, I want to see how they use him. Do they use him in the slot? I mean, he was mainly an outside guy in college. Some are saying he may be more suited inside. We got a lot of inside guys. So let's see what he can do on the outside. It'd be nice to see him establish himself there. But anyway they get him involved, I'll be excited. And yeah, shout out to Nana Ray for calling it out.
Yeah, absolutely. One other observation that I did make, when I watch these clips, I try and look for small things that distinct, because they're just running through drills, like at least some of the stuff that I saw, but small things that could be a sign of things to come. And the guy that doesn't have to do with Tylen Wallace, but it has more to do with Rashad Bateman. The guy that we had on that covered the Gophers talked about Rashad having a basketball background and that he was going to play basketball for a smaller school. And then Minnesota called him up wanting him to play wide receiver. And he said, see ya. I'm going to play football. Mm-hmm. But where they were doing drills, where they're trying to, it looks like, they're just doing a move to get past some press coverage on a tackling dummy with some arms. Right. But man, he shook the shoes out of that thing, right? No, I mean, but his hips look loose, right? Like you can tell he's got moves to really be deceptive, and he's got good lateral movement about him. He's got good hips, and I'm excited for it. It was just watching him in comparison to Hollywood, in comparison to Kane, and then even in comparison to Tylen Wallace, that stood out to me. I mean, it was very noticeable, the difference in the way that, he was able to move his body, and in better than the other guys. It was much more fluid, much more convincing in his steps, much more intentional, and not just chopping of the feet, but every step was am I going left? Am I going right? Like, he sold it really well. And it did remind me very much of like a basketball player, because you're much more intentional, I think, with your footwork that way. So that was encouraging. I know it's like a small detail, but that's really all we have to look at it unless we're there.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. It just looks different when Rashad Bateman runs routes. It
so
just looks
fluid,
different.
Right?
Yeah. So fluid, so quick in and out of his cut, in and out of his breaks. I mean, it's just, you're right. It's different with Rashad. And I think that's why the Ravens took him, in the first round. There's no doubt about it. They saw the same thing, Jimbo, and it's got them excited as well. But one bit of other, unfortunate news, Anthony Averitt, a cornerback we were both high on, we both expect to be the final member of that room, who really showed out last year when Marlon was forced inside after the Tavon injury, and showed he could be counted on in big moments. He did not practice today because he failed the conditioning test, Jimbo, a conditioning test you're very familiar with. You've tried to run.
Myself.
Yes, the DB test. And it's no joke. But at the same time, this isn't new. This isn't like he was a rookie like we saw. By the way, Ben Cleveland, who earlier in the week failed, is passed and is now back on the field practicing with his teammates. So shout out to him for that. But this is Averitt's third year?
Meter going at Owings Mills, like I said last time. He walked through the camera and it was like, I mean, he sounds like a bull. I'm like, dude, this guy, he would shake the whole house if he had a split level.
Absolutely. He's a big dude, no doubt about it. Good to see him back on the floor or on the field. But Anthony Averitt, his third year, he fails. Disappointed. I mean, again, this isn't something we expect him to pass tomorrow, be back out there. But still, a little disappointed considering the fact this is no surprise, and he's done it before.
Yeah, disappointing, and it can't look good, especially in a crowd cornerback room where as much as he showed out, I don't think he's a lock.
Right.
Based on the depth that we have there and the draft picks, depending on how you want to count Brandon Stevens and stuff like that, but the talent there and the depth there, and the financial commitment to four of those guys already limits us, right? When you're talking Jimmy's a lock, Tavon's a lock, Marlon's a lock, and Marcus Peters a lock. So how much more room is there? And so this is, it's not a good look for for old Double A, and we need to get him back out there. But I tell you what, man, it's unfortunate for him, and it's a lack of professionalism because it is literally your job in every sense of the word.
Yep.
Like, when it's coming. You get paid to do this. Just do it. Like,
and you've done it before.
I would be doing it every week up until it. So that way when it's there, nothing is different. It's just another Monday or Friday or whatever, the day that I have, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Face it and make it harder for yourself. But that way, by the time you're there, this is a breeze, you know?
Yeah, run it at 25 seconds instead of 27, I think was the...
Yeah, whatever you got to do. Yeah, put some ankle weights on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do it in tennis shoes instead of cleats, whatever. But anyway, yeah. But this is a bright spot, Glenn. Not as unfortunate news, but fortunate for me because I've been high on my boy Josh Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our guys that he commonly tweets, and he's in our chat all the time. Said he was at camp today. He tweeted at us, said Josh Oliver is making this team. 410 Sports Talk took reps as TE2 today and looked apart as the second pass catching tight end.
Okay.
All right. I think he went on a little further. I don't have it all in front of me, but but you said it, Glenn. It's really about the health.
Yeah.
Can he get through? But that's encouraging, right? That he's flashing already.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to allow myself to get my hopes up because I'm still worried about that injury bug biting. But I tell you what, if this guy makes it through camp, I agree with you, Jim. But that was the only caveat of me leaving him off my 53-man roster predictions is he hasn't shown it yet, so I'm not going to predict him to show it now. But we've also, on this show, complimented the Ravens staff and their ability to keep guys healthy. And that's a full commitment from the owner all the way down to making sure that they do everything they can to keep these guys on the field. So if there's any team that can keep Josh Oliver healthy and upright, I think in my opinion, it's the Baltimore Ravens. So he's got a shot, and nobody uses tight ends more than the Baltimore. So it's really the perfect storm for a guy like Josh Oliver who needs to, because I'm sure most teams gave up on a guy like him. I mean, most teams would just say, well, he can't stay healthy. He's never made an impactful play on the field. So let's just, there's another group of rookies every year that come in hungry, ready to go. But the Ravens saw something in him. They decided to go after him and grab him. And I'd be more than happy to see the Ravens depart to give up that 7th round pick in order to keep him on this team because the dude's got crazy athleticism. His ball skills are off the chart. He's a 50-50 ball winner. And he's a red zone threat that I think Mark Andrews would love to see opposite him in those situations because right now all the attention when we're in that red zone is on Mark Andrews, and rightfully so because he's the clear-cut best option for Lamar and the favorite target for Lamar in those situations.
Let's be honest. When it's 3rd down or in the red zone, the team is worried about number 8, number 89, number 89.
That's it.
That's and not that we don't have more than that. We have much more than that this year, but certainly historically speaking, like you said, I mean, that's where it's been. Red zone, 3rd down, 89 and 8.
Yep. So, hey, that would be awesome. I mean, the guy is an athletic. This is talking about another tight end who's former basketball player. I mean, this is what tight ends look like nowadays. They're big, they're fast, they're strong. They can do it all.
So if he makes the team and ends up having a decent season, is it going to look bad that the Jags replaced him with Tim Tebow?
Yeah, that probably won't be a good look. Yeah, but at the same time, it wasn't. Yeah, no, I could see that. That would be a really, if he shows out, say there was a scenario where Nick Boyle isn't ready for a little bit and he ends up getting some serious play time and shows out, man, that will be the talk. Like, what were they thinking giving up on this guy for Tim Tebow to come out of baseball retirement to play? But yeah, that's certainly going to be entertaining and can't wait to see that. But yeah, I mean, is there anything I'm excited? Day one is in the books.
Yeah.
Disappointed in the beginning, but got a little excited throughout all the other, updates that I was hearing. I guess
last thing I want to end with a bow on top of this is just simply that I'm getting excited about Sammy Watkins, Glenn. It's hard for me to hold it in because I'm rooting for this guy. I like who he is as a person. I like who he is as a player and his mentality because I feel like it jives with. Everyone has those players where you feel like your mentality is the same in that, like, I really think he's team first, right? Like he wants to win. He's a team player. He just loves playing football. And John talked about how excited he is about Sam. And he said, look, this kid was a number 4 pick. Like, don't forget, what this guy can bring to the table. And I think that the Ravens program, the Ravens culture, and his where he's at in his career is a perfect fit. To keep him healthy, keep him upright. You just referenced how good the Ravens do at keeping guys healthy. And man, I think this guy could have a really significant resurgence to his career. Not that he went anywhere, but I think he can remind people why he was number 4 pick and can be a true number 1 in any offense. So I'm excited for Sammy Watkins, man. The more I hear about it, the more I think about it. Like you said, as long as he can stay healthy, I think this guy's going to ball out this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about the threat he brings to this offense, man. Just want to see Lamar on the field with him to start building some of that chemistry and building this passing attack. But soon enough, he'll be out there. And that, selfishly for us, when we go there August 10th, he should be back on the field and we'll be able to see him because we will be there August 10th at training camp with our notepads ready.
Yeah, and let me just say this. I did see a tweet. Lamar retweeted it with some broken heart emojis, but a girl retweeted a picture of herself on the plane flying from LA to BWI to go to training camp to find out that Lamar wasn't going to be there. So all I got to say, Lamar's, if you watch the show, make it right. Like, make her whole. You know what I mean?
But I mean, she's probably just one of many in the next 10 days that are coming. I mean, look, Lamar, when my son heard we were going, he said, I want to high five Lamar. I want to race him in Hollywood. Those are his 2 guys. He loves him in Hollywood. He wants to race him.
My money's on Camden.
I couldn't even do the old, these shoes will make you faster and talk him into a win there. But I'm sure he's, that young lady is just one of many who are going to be disappointed to not see Lamar out there. That kind of stinks. I mean, there's people like those passes were gone in 24 hours. So some people only got in on those earlier days are going to miss out. But hopefully, like you said, they can find a way to make it right. But yeah, let us know your guys' comments.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Lamar and the fact that he's now tested positive a second time? He's going to miss the first 10 days along with Gus Edwards. Averitt failing the conditioning test. Bozeman throwing some errant snaps until he finally got them gloves off and got it going.
It is day 1 for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like day 1. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.